Hello, I'm Anna Pelagotti and I'm presenting forensic imaging for Art Diagnostics. What evidence should we trust? I'm presenting on behalf of a team of 8 persons belonging to 5 different organizations, 3 research-oriented in very different fields, and 2 private companies in the art diagnostic field. It's a very multidisciplinary team because this is a very complex and multidisciplinary subject. So what is the research rationale? For art authentication and attribution, scientific evidence is increasingly important, and diagnostic images such as infrared reflectography, X-rays, UV fluorescence often provide crucial information. However, these images are also concerned by integrity. So are they original? Are they authentic? Have they been altered? This is the question. How to go about this? Specific computer vision techniques, for example forensic techniques, have long been employed to detect tampering in photographs. However, to the best of our knowledge, this is the first time that forensic imaging techniques are applied to art diagnostic images. Is this relevant? Well, actually, selling fake artworks could be a very lucrative business, and paintings become from being valued 0 to almost 0 to million euros. And as science is increasingly capable of distinguishing original artworks from fake ones, and it is trusted for it, and it is used as evidence in trials and courts in litigations, there is a clear need to be able to trust that also such evidence is not falsified. A significant part of the scientific evidence, indeed, that is currently employed in the attribution of paintings consists of digital images. However, these images are not digital photographs. This is a very clear difference. For example, infrared images can be acquired using a digital scanner or a digital camera, and the results may resemble a photo or be in a raw format and consist of an array of black and white pixels. UV images can be acquired with a color camera, standard camera if you like, or be the result of a multispectral acquisition method and therefore produced as a result of a mathematical computation, making use of a number of different black and white images. X-ray digital images can be digitized films or native digital images acquired with a direct method. Also, these are provided in a number of formats, for example, the medical format, DCOM, or JPEG, depending on the system used for their acquisition. We started this research from X-rays images. We could have started from other ones, but for now we started from this. What are X-ray images for? Sadly, they are among the first used in the field of attributions, and they are actually very useful because you can see in them the types of support used, the materials, the presence of preparatory sketches, any changes in the composition, and many other clues. In this work, we present 2 case studies to illustrate the kind of features that are taken into account when evaluating X-ray image for authentication purposes and what kind of alteration could be used to falsify such data. Of course, not all alterations are malicious. In this image, for example, image processing has been applied to reduce the impression of the frame and make the whole image more readable. So the first case study is Madonna delle Grazie with St. Rosalia and St. John the Baptist. Why this painting? It has an uncertain attribution and was considered to be either a copy by an unknown artist of a painting by Pietro Novelli, now in Palazzo Batellis in Palermo, or another version by Novelli himself. This was the question. And actually, X-rays has been used to try and understand what was the reality, what was the situation. Here, the X-rays show a careful use of highlights, thin brush strokes of pure white pigment, in this case white lead, spread with a flat tip brush from the volumetric rendering of figurative details and drapery contours. The dark background and the shaded areas are regular and thinner, the figurative details and especially the flesh tones in the areas of maximum light have a greater body and thickness and are characterized by a curvilinear shape. So the details revealed by the diagnostic investigation are exactly coinciding with those of the painting of the same subject and of undisputed attribution to Pietro Novelli that is now in Palazzo Patelis in Palermo. What is their conclusion? That also this painting is by Pietro Novelli. However, there are no variation or pentimenti to be seen, that is, parts of the composition that were initially different from the version which is currently visible. So the conclusion is this is a second version by Pietro Novelli, but not the first. The first idea is the second version. The second case study is St. Francis and St. John. Of this subject, which is certainly an original El Greco composition, there are several copies. So we don't know. The question was, is this a copy or is it, and by whom? And also in this case, the X-rays helped a great deal. In this case, the X-rays image shows how the artist uses many brushes, including the handle, of different types and sizes, from large to very fine, and how brush strokes, charged and discharged, are intertwined and in all directions. Their relative radio opacity is also peculiar to the painting of the Master of Candia, El Greco, where the flesh, thanks to the presence of lead white, reveals dense and persistent brush strokes. So the conclusion is this is a painting by El Greco. On top of this, there are numerous variations or pentimenti that is part of the composition that were initially different from the version which is currently visible. And so the conclusion is it's not only by El Greco, but this is the first version of the many known. So, what kind of malicious altering of the diagnostic images can we imagine? Generally, there could be two reasons to alter diagnostic evidence: to help support an attribution or to contribute to dismiss it. When comparing two similar paintings and discussing which one is the original and which one is the copy, also by the same artist as we have seen, diagnostic images are analyzed and the indication of a previous hidden and a different version of visible and X-rays, a so-called pentimento, is used as a proof of a creative process and therefore of originality and authenticity. This is why when we were deciding what kind of image processing to apply, we thought that the first thing to do was to artificially introduce a pentimento. Therefore, new images have been produced starting from the original X-rays image. So we have thought of two cases. A simple case where there is a copy move of a detail of this X-ray image using Adobe Photoshop. As you can see, the right hand of St. Francis was copied and moved more or less in the position of the left hand. This is a very easy alteration, easy to spot for any observer, any human observer. And then we thought of a more advanced alteration in which there was a more realistic manipulation, so that the resultant image could have been considered as unprocessed by an art expert. As you can see, we have applied here some processes to sort of create a previous version, a previous position of the Madonna's head. And this could have been considered a real pentimento. In order to obtain this last image, a number of processing tools have been used, available in the Adobe Photoshop suite. So what kind of multimedia forensic can we apply? Multimedia forensic relies on the observation that each phase of the image history, from the acquisition process to its story in a compressed format and to any post-processing operation, leaves a distinctive trace on the data, a sort of digital fingerprints. Is it then possible to identify the source of the digital image or to determine whether it has been modified by detecting the presence, the absence, or the incongruence of such features intrinsically tied to the digital content itself? So you can say which camera, for example, produced it and which software has been used to modify it. In this study, we focused on forensic tools that evaluate traces left during both the coding and the post-processing phases of a digital image. So let's start with the coding traces. Nowadays, the most common image compression algorithm is JPEG. It is used to reduce the image storage space while maintaining a high perceived quality. A tempered JPEG image can hide a double quantization trace. It shows up when a portion of uncompressed pixel is passed into a JPEG image and the final result is JPEG saved. The untouched region undergoes a double compression. This causes the DCT coefficients to be doubly quantized, leaving a characteristic trace in their statistics. The forensic tools that focus on image coding traces are ADQ2, and the NADQ and JPEG quantization table. And this, as you can see from the description, they focus on different characteristics. I'm not describing them in details. You'll find all the details in the paper if you're interested. Post-process, then what are the algorithms that we've used, the state-of-art algorithm that we have been using for the post-processing traces? Editing tools like Adobe Photoshop or GIMP are vastly used for image enhancement, but also for image tampering. The most common malicious alteration performed by editing tools are copy move and splicing. The copy move attack clones a portion of an image and adds it into a different position. The splicing attack copies an image patch into a different image. Both of them can be used when trying to modify a diagnostic image, for example, to simulate a pentimento, as we were saying, or a particular painting technique. And the forensic tools that focus on image editing trace are these four: splice buster, clone block, clone key points, and sift. But different, that they actually focus also on different characteristics, and all the details you'll find in the paper if you're interested. So let's go and try to see what the results are. So for the results are, let's say, interesting because they're kind of quite disappointing, to the surprise of the whole team. So even for the simple scenario, which is we can, as we remember, it's very easy to spot for a human observer. The ADQ2 considers that all the images analyzed in this scenario are not tampered. The NADQ applied to the copy on Greco identified that the white background is a single compressed and the part related to the painting is overall tampered. Not good. Only the JPEG quantization tables tools identified that possible tampering from Adobe Photoshop on the Nikon D3000 device. Good, but not so good. So here you see what instead are the results for the editing traces. So the SIFT algorithm fails to detect manipulation. Only in the case of a copy move tampering on a Greco painting, it identifies one key point. Splice Buster is able to identify one of the manipulation where the hand copy is clearly visible in warp colors, and you can see it in the top right corner. The JPEG QT tool identifies a possible tampering from Adobe Photoshop or the Nikon D3000 device. The best performance on this scenario are given by the clone block tool, where as you can see, the block and the original block and the tampered one are shown in the map, in the key point localization map. So these were the two algorithms for coding and for editing traces on the simple scenario. Unfortunately, for the advanced scenario, most forensic tools fail to identify manipulation. Only the analysis of the JPEG QT shows the compatibility of such content with the QTs usually used by the Nikon D3000 and the Adobe Photoshop software, suggesting a possible non-authentic content. That is a modified content, but without any clue of where or what. So quite unuseful. So what are the conclusions and the future work? The current forensic tools are mainly developed for photographs acquired with commercial cameras. And diagnostic images are inherently dissimilar from photographs, both because of the acquisition devices and the techniques employed, and of the non-compressed format. None of the state-of-the-art forensic methods used to assess the integrity of the images is able to fully cope with realistic tampering of diagnostic images. Therefore, specialized algorithms should be developed to be able to automatically assess the possible tampering in these cases. This is why future work will also include more image modalities. Developed algorithm could also be applied in other domains, like medical images. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will acknowledge the help from the many friends that have also supported this research. Thank you again, and goodbye.